This is our agenda for today. Kara's going to give us an overview, a rapid pitch of what Baby Barista is about. And then that'll be followed by Josh and I. We're going to ask her some questions that we prepared to probe in a little bit more about the nature of the business. And it's in the format of how an investor might do diligence. There's something called due diligence. And so those questions that you might have as well. Then we have a couple of industry experts that have actually provided some comments. These are people that are involved in baby tech and formula and nutrition. You'll find their comments actually on the Baby Barista offering page on the Fundify marketplace. And so we'll talk a little bit about where you can find those comments. And then we'll shift to asking you if you have questions for Kara, and she'll be delighted to answer those. And then we'll take closing comments after that. So with that as a prologue, once again, thank you. And for those who are just joining us, thanks for joining us. I'm going to turn it over and allow Kara to share her slides. If you want to go to her website, you can scan this QR code in your phone and go to the website. It's also listed down here. And this is Kara and her family and the Baby Barista product. So Kara, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here today. And so I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you. Here we go.
Oh, Craig, thank you so much. Thank you, Josh and Amy. The Fundify experience so far has just been amazing. And so thank you for featuring Baby Barista on your incredible platform. Looking forward to all that the future holds, and I'll just jump right into my pitch. Well, I am the founder and CEO of Baby Barista. My name is Kara Armstrong. And we are on a mission to make infant formula simple. As Craig mentioned, I'm a veteran frontline worker, a mom to 3 beautiful children, and my youngest daughter, Mia, pictured on the right, was born with Down syndrome. She's the inspiration behind the brand. Characteristic of that condition, as Craig mentioned, she was unable to breastfeed. So I found myself in the kitchen at all hours of the day and night, going through that 15-minute bottle preparation loop. And I just found it to be time-consuming, aggravating, and messy. You see all those steps around the circle that you have to go through just to get your baby fed. And 15 minutes is a really long time to hear your baby cry. So I decided to invent an automated solution. I was shocked to learn that nothing existed like that out in the marketplace at that time. And I said, you know what, I think I can change this. I'm going to change this. And I set out to do it, and I did it. So this is Baby Barista. The easiest way to describe it to your friends and family members is that it's the Nespresso machine for infant formula. It makes the perfect bottle every time in under 30 seconds with just the touch of a button. You can also activate it from your smartphone at 3 a.m. in the morning when you hear your baby cry. You can literally roll over, grab your phone, touch a button, and by the time your toes hit the kitchen, that bottle is ready. None of that 15-minute preparation loop when you have Baby Barista. Now, there is a competitive offering in the marketplace, and Baby Barista is superior in so many ways, but the most notable way has to do with the very important contamination. Bottle prep is a semi-sterile process. You have to go through all of the steps to make sure that there's no contamination. And so to avoid that contamination, the competitive offering requires you to hand wash all those components that you see up on the screen after every 4th bottle, which many of you parents know that in the early days of a baby's life, that's up to 4 times a day, which really negates any of the convenience that a machine offers. But we wanted to take away more than just we didn't want to be a disconnected piece of hardware, a standalone product like our competitor. We wanted to address all the pain points associated with formula feeding. So we sell the machine as a one-time purchase. And with it, we sell premium organic infant formula by monthly subscription. No more putting your baby in a dirty shopping cart. It just comes right to your door. Our connected app enables mom and dad to prepare a bottle from anywhere, to manage their formula supply, and to create a feeding log to track their baby's feedings, which is really essential for well visits and sick visits at the pediatrician. And the result is a novel customer experience, the likes of which no other brand can offer. Zooming out, here's our 5-year projected P&L. We're confident that by year 5, we can achieve $18 million of EBITDA on $110 million of revenue. Now, if you're a finance person and your eyes went to the jump in OpEx between 2022 and 2023, the explanation for that is that that's when we scale to become an omni-channel brand. We start as a direct-to-consumer brand, and then we scale to retail, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. This is the global infant formula market. It's massive, and as you can see, it's rapidly growing, but we intend to service the US market exclusively, so I'm going to take a deeper dive. The total addressable market, that's all babies born in the United States, whether they're formula fed or breastfed, is $5.2 billion. About half of that market, or $2.6 billion, is comprised of known infant formula sales. But we are laser focused on the $1 billion liquid formula category that's growing at 8.3% CAGR. And the reason for that is it's that people are seeking convenience, and that's why it's the fastest growing segment in the formula market. Here's our business model. We intend to start, like I mentioned, as a direct-to-consumer business. And the reason for this is relationship development. We want to get to know mom and dad and really understand their purchasing habits and decision-making before we scale to retail. And we do have the interest of 5 major North American retailers. So that is our plan. As you can see, our margins in the direct-to-consumer space are more than healthy. And I'm happy to answer questions about our CAC and LTV in the question Q&A segment. We have 2 strategic partnerships that I think are worth mentioning. One is with Aero Electronics. They're a Fortune 500 company, and they will be providing a certification for the Baby Barista machine that's going to signal to manufacturing that we have a fully functioning machine that has healthy components. They have a long, healthy life ahead of them, and that the machine will function effectively for our consumers. I'm also really proud to tell you that we have a formula partnership with the largest independent formula provider in the nation. They will house the machinery required to put the formula inside of our proprietary pouches, and we will be licensing their formulation, and they will have formulations to come for us to expand our brand into the follow-on formula space. And I can talk more about that also in the Q&A. So let's talk about our current traction. Previously, we raised $800,000 from friends and family that believed in our vision. We have a fully functioning prototype that's protected by 4 granted patents. I just got the 4th in the mail yesterday. We have a very, very exciting formula partnership, as I mentioned, with the largest independent formula brand in the nation, the interest of 5 major North American retailers, and we've already generated millions of media impressions just organically. We were named one of Pepperdine University's most fundable companies, beating out 5,000 US startups for that very important designation. There are only 20 startups on the list. We also were named one of California's top design innovations on a CBS show called California by Design. We've been written up in Fast Company and USA Today, and people are really excited about us reaching the shelves. As a nurse, I learned that you never save a life in isolation, right? There's always 20 people by your side in that effort. And I have a phenomenal internal team, and I attribute much of our success to the strength of our internal team. We also have a rock star strategic advisory board to help us see around the corners in the areas of infant nutrition, technology, partnerships, strategy, and finance and manufacturing. And I really am walking in the company of giants and so humbled by that. We're currently raising $700,000. That will get us to a fully completed bill of materials before we raise our, we'll concurrently raise our Series A to go to manufacturing. We have $250,000 of that $700,000 committed, with term sheets actively out and open. And we're hoping to close that round in the next 8 weeks. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kara. That was awesome. And I also just wanted to note, you might want to introduce them briefly. And in a few moments, when we get to the audience Q&A, I've actually asked him in the background to think about any questions he's commonly asked. But why don't you mention Doug? I know he's joining us here today, and just who he is and his role in the company as well.
Sure. Doug Levinson is our strategic advisor. He advises us on high-level strategy and also does internal legal work for us. He's taught at USC and UCLA, Berkeley, and has had a career in the public and private sector. And we're just really blessed to have him on our board of directors and guiding strategy.
Cool. So thanks for joining us today, Doug, as well. I really appreciate that. Good to see you virtually again. And we'll throw to you in a few minutes with any questions that you might commonly get during our audience Q&A session. So, well, we'll have, hopefully you took notes or made a note or on a question during Kara's presentation and pitch. If you have joined us in the past few minutes on Zoom, is a Q&A button. Please click that button and type any question. And Amy is tracking those questions in the background. And then we'll open that up. Also, I've got the ability, once we get to audience Q&A, to open all the mics so we can have an interactive discussion at that point as well. So let's turn our attention now to a Q&A session with Josh and I. As we'll briefly tell you about our startup history, both of us been incredibly involved in startups, a number of really fun startups. But what we've always sensed is how hard it is to raise funds in startups. So Josh, take it from there in terms of the impetus of why we started Fundify, and then from there, a few questions you might have for Kara.
Great, thanks, Craig. Appreciate that. Hello, Kara. It's great to be here. As Craig mentioned, we started Fundify to really simplify startup funding, and that means helping startups just like this one, just like Kara, raise the capital that they're looking for and that they need to flourish, right? And we also started Fundify to help investors deploy their capital into the startup asset class, right? Because as I found the investments that I've made in startups, it's actually quite challenging to make good investments as well from an investor perspective. So Fundify simplifies that process and allows for the everyday investor, as well as the accredited and thorough investor, to also be a part of opportunities just like this one. Maybe Craig, I'll jump right in with a question.
Yeah, please.
Kara. Yep. Thank you. And as I was looking at what you were just talking about, and of course I'm familiar now with Baby Barista, and this may seem obvious, but could you answer a couple of questions? One around who is your ideal customer? And I think that I know what that is, but I want to better understand that. And then also, how do you see Baby Barista maybe changing this market and the dynamic that's going on here?
Yeah, those are great questions, Josh. Thank you so much. Our ideal customer is any bottle feeding parent, and you can become a bottle feeding parent for a variety of reasons. Some people have medical conditions that prohibit them from breastfeeding. Sometimes it's just personal choice. And then, there's my case where I literally didn't have the choice. I was not producing enough breast milk and my baby wasn't latching appropriately. Sometimes it's just a matter of being a professional parent that doesn't have the time to pump and do all of those things. So we're actually targeting any bottle feeding parent for whatever reason, recognizing that fed is best and really wanting to kind of like take away the stigma that's attached with bottle feeding. I think there's a lot of, judging that goes around with moms. They kind of judge each other based on what they believe is best for their child. But I think we all have the best interests of our children in mind and have various limitations and so forth. So any bottle feeding parent is our target. And I believe that Baby Barista is literally going to revolutionize and change bottle feeding forever. As I noted, our competitor is currently in a class action lawsuit having to do with the contamination level and misdosing, the inappropriate dosing of the formula by virtue of their machine. And what we're trying to create is a very effective, fail-proof system, something that you can be proud to present to someone as a gift for when they're having a baby, proud to have on your countertop, and essentially just to take all the thinking and all the preparation out of bottle preparation, being sure that you're giving your baby the best of everything, the best infant formula with the most convenience.
Well, I can tell you, Kara, I was an ideal customer 30 years ago. So, and hopefully I've got 3 grown kids. Hopefully I'll be an ideal customer again really soon. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, if they see this live stream. But I'm curious about what do you think is your primary challenge to success in terms of helping overcome that stigma of bottle feeding, and any other thing that pops to the top of your mind in terms of primary challenges?
Yeah, well, that's why our partnership with Fundify was so crucial. As a female founder, it's very sad to learn that only 2% of VC funding comes to female founders, and I'm a non-traditional founder on top of that. So our team has everything in place to execute. We're literally like a racehorse, just like standing at the gate, ready to burst through. And the one constraint that we have is the funding. So, when I met you and Josh and learned about your strong entrepreneurial bent and background and the sympathy that you have for someone like me that can execute, that can take the transferable lessons that I learned as a registered nurse in terms of working as a team, triaging problems, all of the things that I learned as a nurse have helped me slide over and be an effective CEO. But the one barrier to entry for someone like me is the funding. So that's why our partnership with Fundify is so critical.
Great. And to follow on, I'm curious, you mentioned about formula and the struggles the competitor is having as well, but what's the value of using liquid formula rather than the more common powder that people may find?
Yeah, so this was really me using my nursing background and my nurse eyes to say, what was it about the competitive offering that wasn't working? And funny enough, I read their patent back in 2011 and already kind of saw the issues that were going to exist. So powder naturally clumps, and when it's in any environment with water, there's clumping and contamination. I don't know if you've ever smelled an old formula bottle, but it's not a pleasant smell. And so the issue is that because formula needs to be dosed through an aperture device in the competitive offering, that powder and water clump and they reside in there and they misdose the formula, and it's incumbent on the user to do the decontamination. So by contrast, Baby Barista is an aseptic system. And what that means is that the infant formula and water never touch the internal components of the machine. Instead, they're mixed in this external, really cool magnetic mixing chamber. It's the only piece that needs to be clean. It seamlessly locks into the machine. The machine will be boxed with 2 of these, so one can live in your dishwasher and you can swap them out every time you make a bottle. And mom and dad will really have the assurance that their baby's getting a sterile aseptic formula bottle.
That's really cool. And I've seen the product video, and I'll tell people how they can see it too toward the end of our time today. But the other thing you've mentioned a couple of times is the patents, and you've gotten a 4th patent in June. I saw that on Google Patents and was thrilled to see that. Can you tell us a little bit about your patent coverage?
Yeah, so a lot of the strength of our patents is around this mixing chamber and the proprietary way that these jets mix with the formula. We have 2 design patents and 2 utility patents. We have a continuation patent in the hopper, continuously trying to innovate and protect. And I think it's one of the things in my life that is little known fact about me amongst my friends and family, but also something that I'm really, really proud of, being a USPTO patent holder. Never envisioned that for myself when I was a nurse, but it's pretty exciting to have that patent protection.
Very cool. Let's shift over a little bit to another topic Josh is going to ask about.
Sure.
Hey, Kara, I'm curious about your team, and can you tell us more about the team that you currently have, if you have any anticipated hires that you're making, and also how you feel perhaps that your team is able to execute better than other teams out there in the space?
Yeah, thank you for that question. One of the most interesting things about my team is that many of them have been with me for more than 5 years, and just simply with an equity position in the company. And they have stuck with me for the long haul because of their belief in the product. And so that's really humbling for me. But a couple of the new additions to our team that I'm really excited about is our Director of Engineering, Ron Gompertz, who came from Microsoft, Philips, and Facebook. He was crucial and critical in the Sonic toothbrush line that had a consumable piece to it. So you would order, the brush heads replacements would come automatically. And so he fully developed that product. He's already spoken in to the consumable piece of Baby Barista in a way that we can protect our machine from being hijacked from any of the big formula providers. He has some really, really innovative ideas around that kind kind of protection for our consumable. And he's just a super rock star smart guy. So humbled and amazed to have him on our team. Also, Greg Flores, the founder of NP3, which I remember well, but bringing digital music to the internet. He was one of the founders of NP3, and he's leading our business development. Our CFO, Lisa, has been with me for 8 years. She started her career at Disney, and she keeps us compliant and organized. Judd Curry is our VP of sales, and he was the one that opened all the doors at the 5 major retail locations and keeps up relationships with the buyers on all of those desks to remind them that Baby Barista is coming and keep them excited about that. And then, of course, I mentioned Doug, who guides our strategy. So we really have a solid team. And like I said, we're so ready to execute and so excited about this.
I love that. Craig, I know you had a question about funding.
Yeah, I'm curious if you could just tell the folks on the live stream a little about the funding so far that you've raised from family and friends and how that's enabled you to achieve initial milestones.
Right. So the original friends and family round, the $800,000, got us through a robust R&D phase where we went into parents' homes and we learned about their decision making when it comes to buying a baby product that costs more than $100. We measured their cabinets. We watched them go through the bottle making process. We were very shocked to learn that while it's kind of a simple process, that nobody ever went through it the same way twice, and that there was a lot of margin for error. And then we returned to those parents' homes with foam form factors of various embodiments of the features and let them play with those, which really informed the design of our final prototype. So that $800,000 got us through the R&D, through the prototype build, patent coverage and all of that. And then now we're raising that additional $700,000. And as I mentioned, we have $250,000 committed with more money on the way and term sheets out in the ether from family offices and high net worth individuals. And I'm so excited about the people that are joining us on this journey.
That's really great. I'm curious, as you were shadow testing, the number of husbands that actually knew the process.
I know. Well, I don't want to daddy bash, but this is a father-proof machine, right?
Well,
Richard,
that's what I was going to say. I think it would be very enabling for me.
You were very empowering. One of my favorite people in the world and one of our board members, Richard Nanolo, he was the CFO of Disney. And at the time, his wife had babies and so forth. And so he said that, he was often restricted from making bottles. He just wasn't trusted. And he's like, I needed that machine on my countertop so that I could have been more participatory in the process. So I think a lot of moms are a little reticent to turn the feeding duties over to dad, but Fundify is democratizing investing, and Baby Barista is democratizing bottle making.
Yeah, and I've seen a number of men investing, so the traction is there. I'm curious, with this $700,000, what is it that you'll be able to do next? I know that part of this is ramping up. You said that your guys are at the gate, ready to go, champing at the bit.
We sure are.
What do you do? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have identified a mechanical engineering and design firm that specializes in consumer-facing dairy dispensing devices, and they're going to help us with the interface of the consumable pouch. The original vision was a multi-serve solution, and that didn't work out for a variety of reasons related to contamination. So we've moved to a single-serve solution. So we are going to just engineer that consumable hardware interface and create a full bill of materials, again, under the direction of Aero Electronics. So at the end of this round, we are going to be ready to hand that over to a manufacturer and go launch into full-scale production in concordance with our Series A raise.
Super. That sounds very exciting. And so in concert with the production and the manufacturing, it's also important to make sure that there's traction out in the marketplace. So talk to us just for a moment about retail and how that's going with getting retail traction.
Yeah, well, Judd and I, pre-pandemic, right before the world closed down, traveled all throughout the United States and Canada, meeting with the senior buyers on all the retail desks of the largest baby retailers in North America. And they were all unanimously excited and all said, we're ready when you're ready. So we have those relationships developed and ready when we're ready. But as I mentioned in my pitch, creating influencer marketing campaigns and getting awareness about Baby Barista is essential in the marketplace before it's just blindly placed on a retail shelf. When I met with Nora Schutz, the senior buyer at Bed Bath & Beyond, and her team of 5 and introduced them to the machine, I asked the question about Baby Nest, which was Nestle's solution that was somewhat similar to Baby Barista, although again, it was a powdered product. And they introduced it into the United States and soon retracted it off the shelves. And her perspective on that was that there was not an educational rollout. In other words, Nestle just blindly placed it on the shelves and people didn't really understand what it was, how it functioned. So really, making an impact on our consumers in the direct to consumer 2 years as we roll Baby Barista out and educating them in advance of that retail rollout is very important to us.
Yeah, I think that's critical. You mentioned you talk to people about buying a baby tech, device over $100. So there's some education and ramp that's required. So let me shift to my last 2 questions, and then we'll go to audience questions. We have a number of questions queued up for you.
Great.
What breakthroughs, let's look forward, what breakthroughs do you need to succeed at this point? And be thinking about how people on this call today could potentially help you in that, beyond the going to the campaign and making an investment, other areas that you can think about.
Yeah, of course. So, strategic partnerships are always really important, but I just have to reemphasize that it's the funding that's limiting us right now. And it's a story of so many non-traditional founders, so many female founders. It's something that needs to change, and hopefully I can be, actively involved in that shift. And we need the money. That's the basic thing. We need the money to be able to execute.
Yeah, cool. And that makes a lot of sense. So one of my favorite questions has to do with time travel. Okay, so let's go 12 months into the future. And here we are, and we're not wearing masks and everything's back to normal. And you've been wildly successful, hit your milestones, and very pleased. What happened?
Well, in 12 months, we would be ready to manufacture. I mean, that's the dream, right? So the next year is going to be, dotting our I's and crossing our T's, working with Aero Electronics and our formula partner to make sure that we're ready for full scale manufacturing. So we would be in a factory and ready to produce machines.
Sounds great. That's very exciting. And I look forward, maybe by that time, there's a 9-month window in there. Who knows? Maybe I'll become an ideal customer.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times people have said, oh, if only this was out. I mean, people are so ready for this product to be on shelves, and so are we.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Let's shift over, and we've got about 10, 15 minutes left. Let's get some questions from the audience. So Amy's been teeing up some questions here. I'm going to pop this up and into my window here and take a look here. And I'm just going to go down in order of the questions, and I'll throw them out there, and Kara, please answer them whatever level of detail you like. So
Sure.
And thank you everyone for the questions, and keep them coming. We have a few minutes left here. From Ruffy, he said, hi, tell me a bit about going from prototype to production. This is a great question. Who are your partners, and what's the overall plan and timeline to get to volume manufacturing?
Right.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for that question. I think that's where the direction of, Ron Gompertz comes in alliance with our partners at Aero Electronics and with our engineering partners that are, have an eye towards manufacturing. We also have an advisor, Yvonne Johnson, that's been 30 years in the manufacturing environment that's also guiding us. So, we are guided by all of these forces, and we are still in the decision-making phase in terms of where we're going to manufacture the product. Those conversations are actively happening, and there is not a firm decision in that arena yet. But with Aero Electronics, our manufacturing partner that specializes in dairy dispensing, consumer-facing products. Ron Gompert's our director of engineering, and Yvonne Johnson, our advisory board member. With all hands on deck, we're going to produce a product that is going to be effective and will sell.
Super great. Thank you. Let me go to a question from Eric Doris. Hello, Eric. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate that. He asked, do you load the machine one pouch at a time? And can you preload a pouch, especially if you're going to operate it from your phone in the middle of the night?
I love this question. And this is what we're currently exploring with i3, our design partners in Wisconsin. This is the interface, hardware consumable interface that I'm talking about. And yes, we are talking about perhaps cartridges with the single serve pouches loaded up and ready to be deployed so that you don't have to change it every single time. Or the other possibility will be that you'll have to load the single pouch in, but we are currently and actively exploring that. We do see the need to have something ready to fire off in the middle of the night. More than one pouch stored would be ideal, but we're working through that, and that's great insight.
Super good. We're going to change it a little bit. We'll come back to the audience questions in a moment. One thing I want to show you here, hopefully I go to the right slide. We actually have on Fundify's platform something that's very unique, and that along with the startup information you can see in what's known as an offering or a pitch page, they're also experts, industry experts. They are not affiliated with Baby Barista or any of the other startups, but they are experts in the field that Baby Barista in particular happens to be a part of, in baby tech and consumer and CPG products, consumer product goods. And so we've found a couple of folks. They took a look at Baby Barista, asked some questions, and we've captured a couple of those questions to ask Kara right now from Jeremy Livingston. Jeremy was 10 years in baby tech at Johnson & Johnson, and Ryan's been 14 years in pediatric and adult global nutrition, including time at Similac and Pedialyte and Pediasure. So really amazing experts. They asked a few questions, and we've captured a lot of this, as I said, on the platform. We'll try to review more of that at the end. But Amy, can you come on for a second and ask one of the questions that Jeremy had posted?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So Jeremy asked, he noted this is a fast growing niche industry. And companies must have a real point of difference to protect their IP. He wanted to know, how are you different and how are you protecting your IP edge?
Yeah, so our main difference is the aseptic nature of our machine, which is really important. Instead of cleaning 10 plastic components, you only have to clean one piece. And within that piece, which I didn't mention previously, is bubble reduction technology, which is really important in the prevention of colic, which is a painful gas producing condition that babies have that causes them to cry for many, many hours during the day and the night. So a lot of our IP protection is centered around our magnetic mixing chamber, the unique way that the jets interface with the formula. But of course, the honest answer is that, your IP protection is only really as deep as your pockets, right? If somebody, like if a Similac or a huge global leader was trying to challenge us, that would be challenging. So we work with an amazing patent attorney with an eye on a patent strategist for the future in terms of, creating a moat around Baby Barista. And we definitely are mindful of the need for that and doing our best to protect our assets.
Yeah, I found that's very true. And I've been in the biotech field as well as in hardware and software, and creating that picket fence or that moat of patents is really important. But you make a great point. Patents, in my experience, are only as valuable as you have money to defend them.
That's right.
So your market traction and your ability to grow quickly help to enable that. And let's one other question for Jeremy, and then we'll go back to the audience. Thank you.
Yes, sure do. So you've touched on this, but I think folks will find it interesting what the our industry expert was top of mind for him. He asked to keep babies safe, you must have a sanitized environment for meal prep. How do you keep a safe, sanitized environment with Baby Barista?
Yeah, so the machine has limited touch points for contamination, as opposed to the competitive offering that actually has the formula touching the internal componentry of the machine. I sound like a broken record, but truthfully, I'm so proud of the fact that we have limited the contact of the formula and the componentry to just that one external piece that requires cleaning. And of course, as we move into this building phase and this re-envisioning of the consumable hardware interface, we're going to go through all the necessary testing within the laboratories to make sure that we're mitigating the contamination in an effective way.
Excellent.
Great. Thanks very much, Amy. Let's go back to some of the audience questions here, and let me get back to this slide, not that slide. There we go. Had a question from Robert. He said, congratulations on your progress. He's a current investor, and so appreciate that. And one question he has is, in speaking with a new mom, such as his daughter-in-law, it's all about the formula. It seems moms are often adamant about the brand of formula they use. Similar to Keurig, do you anticipate licensing or partnering with other formula companies to broaden the spectrum of available and selection of available formula?
We absolutely do. The dream would be to have a myriad of offerings for our machine. The starting point for us was to select the cleanest formula that we can. We see the movement that moms in the United States are going to European formulations. They're importing them here because the FDA does not approve those kinds of formulations that have less preservatives and no heavy metal contaminants. So we had our eye on the prize with this formula provider because they have the only organic DHEA source in any formula. They have no metal contaminants in their formula. It's clean, it's premium, it's organic, it's everything that you would want. But yes, our plan is to grow to offer more than one brand. Right out of the gate, we're going to offer a stage 1 offering. And then our formula partner, their specialty is in follow-on formula, which actually comes into play around 12 months. So you can switch your child to cow's milk, but parents are opting for follow-on formula because of the brain support and the added vitamins that it provides. So our partner is an expert on follow-on formula. So we'll start with the stage 1 offering. We'll quickly scale to follow-on formula. And as our brand awareness grows, we hope to get other formula brands to come and participate in our format.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, Robert, for your investment too.
Yep. Thank you so much. Another question comes from Clint Davis. Great product. Congrats, Kara. What are some of the concerns you're working through to balance scalability and customer support? It seems that you're likely to scale fast with those potential distributors that you're working with.
Yes, that is something that is top of mind for us. And that's the reason that we're not just jumping into retail right out of the gate. We realize and recognize that we're going to have to develop strategies related to scalability, and that when you're, in business with these large retailers, sometimes they wear the pants. And so we need to ramp up and get acquainted and familiarize ourselves with all their practices and with, the volumes that we'll be needing to produce. Just as a side note, our formula partner has the ability to scale with us, which is really exciting. So initially our machine will fit into their clean, sterile environment room, but they also can accommodate the larger machine that produces, I think at scale, 125 pouches per minute. So we can stay right there in that factory as we scale as well.
Super great. Thanks for that answer. I've got another question from Eric. Eric, thanks for being here today. And I love this question. He says, does the machine dispense the same volume of product each time, or can you select the size? And you left one off. He said tall, grande. I would ask venti as well.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love that. Maybe we should change it to the Starbucks verbiage. Yeah, I'm sure we can't do that, but that's so cute. So essentially, when we were thinking of being a multi-serve solution, when we were exploring that, you would dial in the number of ounces and you could get 3 ounces, 4 ounces, 5 ounces. But with this single serve solution, we're going to be producing pouches that will result in 2 ounce, 4 ounce, and 8 ounce bottles. And so, yeah, so there will be no more need to dial in the ounces because the pouches will be barcoded so that the machine will automatically correlate the right amount of water with the formula, which is really important because having that mix be exact is super important for a lot of reasons.
Super. Yeah. And I don't see why you couldn't use that, but I think that's really clever,
That's
Eric.
so
Thank you.
cute. I love it.
I'd like to open mic and invite Doug Levinson to join us for a moment here. And Doug, your mic is open now. And I asked him to think about a commonly asked question that you receive. You're welcome to turn your video cam on as well if you'd like, Doug. But if you can unmute your mic and let me know if you have a question. If not, I have one other that is teed up here. So, Doug, can you hear me? And can you open your mic to ask a question here? And if not, I'll give you a second to come back to that if you can sort that. So, okay, great. I'm going to ask one other question. Doug, interrupt me at any moment, and feel free to come on video as well. A question from Christopher. Thank you for this question. Are there probiotics and enzymes that may require refrigeration but are essential for emulating a mother's natural milk? Great question. Very insightful.
In terms of in our formulation?
Yes, I believe that's it.
Yeah, so our formulation is shelf stable, which, as you can imagine, is important for all of the shipping efficiencies and so forth. But obviously the need for probiotics and enzymes, I'm aware of other founders in that space that are specifically solving that problem. We're kind of remaining laser focused on the problem that we're solving, but it's a great point.
Yeah, super good. I believe Doug has his mic available now. So Doug, welcome to the live stream. Thank you for joining us. And please, what common question do you have or have received around Baby Barista and your role as a advisor and strategist?
Well, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
First of all, thank you so much for having us, and thank you to Fundify for giving us a wonderful opportunity. I want to answer your question directly, but I wanted to take a moment to say also, as somebody who's worked as an investment banker and a corporate executive and a trial lawyer, and I know that the most important part of what's going on is the team. And this is such a wonderful team that I feel incredibly honored to be on. Not only is it a bunch of people who are super smart, we all get along. We all like each other. And I really feel privileged to be on the project. We're parents also, so we lived through this nightmare. And I was one of the daddies who could make a bottle, Kara. But I do hear, commonly, well, basically, if this is such a wonderful idea, how come it doesn't exist already? And I'm not sure I know the answer, but I know that there is a market opportunity. I know that there is the market anomaly of it being dominated by 3 oligopolists, Nestle and 2 pharmas. And the idea of anybody coming in with a transformational disruptive technology is going to be a little threatening to some, but we're going to do it.
Yeah, that sounds compelling. And having the team, I mean, life is short anyway, right? And having a team that you like collaborating with and working with is so important. And I'm privileged that we have that dynamic at Fundify as well. Is there a question that you get often, Doug, as you're talking to people beyond I call that the flat forehead question. It's like, why didn't I think of this? It's like, and so any other question that would be interesting to the folks on the live stream today as well, that you get all the time? It's like your top question that everybody asks.
One of the, if I could just keep talking for a minute, one thing that comes up from time to time is why this doesn't exist yet. And Kara, I believe, touched on an issue, which is funding for female founders is not part of a level playing field. I believe, honestly, if these patents were owned by a male RN, it would have been a lot easier to get this company funded. On the other hand, Kara is unbelievable. She is, I've been with her on this whole journey, years, 6, 7 years. She's brilliant and an incredibly warm, loving person. So if we can just get the financial part taken care of, stand back and watch us make this big.
Thank you so much, Doug, for those kind words and that compliment. I mean, I think I would just interject that, you know, we see Baby Barista as kind of like a Rubik's Cube, because there's not just one piece to it. There was the getting over the hurdle. People told me, you're never going to get through the doors of a major formula manufacturer and get your equipment on their factory floor. And yet, by the grace of God, you know, David and Goliath here, we were able to get through that door and develop a relationship with somebody that, you know, started his journey because he had the heart of a parent like me. He had a son with a medical need, and that started a passion for nutrition. And now he has a $40 million a factory with a room that's ready for us to put our equipment on. So, you know, we've been able to scale all the hurdles and all the pieces. There's the formula piece, the hardware piece, the app piece, and we're just plugging along and making great strides. And sometimes it is the David that has to challenge the Goliath. It gets sleepy, right? They're making money hand over fist, the oligopolists, and nobody kind of comes and shakes up the landscape. But we're ready. We're ready to shake it up.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I wanted to just share one more thing, if I could, for a sec,
Sure,
because
please.
Kara was kind enough to give a shout out to Ron Gompertz, who is our engineering lead and an amazing background. Ron is my friend from elementary school, and I'm 62. So I've known Ron 55 years, and we are incredibly blessed to have him on the team.
That's great. That's tremendous. It's awesome to know somebody that long. And that's amazing. I still know the guy I met the first day of first grade, and we're still friends as well. So
Right? It's delightful. And then, you know, that's a great person to hang with because he already knows I'm a fool. So there's no putting on airs, trying to pretend I'm smart.
I don't know about that part. So, hey, thanks, Doug. Thanks for chiming in with some comments. Very helpful here. Let me go to one final question from a Zoom user. It said, we know most startup companies raise funds, but what are the strategies used in order to attract investors to invest in your company? And I'll answer that in part, but you start, and then I'll tag in at the last and use that to introduce people to the Fundify platform briefly and show them your page and how they can get there.
So I'm not sure I completely understand the question.
The strategy to attract investors to your company.
Okay.
There's a 250 from a family office and other things apart from Fundify and including Fundify. What are you doing?
Sure. So I just have myself out in the world, in the marketplace. I think one of my strengths is that I'm a great connector. I definitely lead with my heart and just tell the story, right? I'm a mom first, I'm a registered nurse second, and then a CEO concurrently. But yeah, I just am out in the world. I'm pitching VCs, I'm pitching high net worth individuals. I attended an amazing event in Dallas a couple months ago called the Lion's Den DFW, which was a faith-based event where I got to share sort of the genesis of my story from a faith-based perspective. So I'm just out talking to people, sharing my story, and my internal team is directing people to the Fundify campaign, just having these conversations. And we have some amazing people that currently have term sheets in their inbox. There's some big wheels, big players, big family offices that not only have deep pockets, but amazing networks. So we're really excited about what the future holds.
That's great. That's great, Kara. And we invite everyone on the call today to also join us in coming to the site. A couple of things about Fundify. We are democratizing, as Kara said earlier, startup funding. And the impetus of this with Josh and myself is that startup funding is still too hard. Whether you're a female startup founder or otherwise, it's just hard to raise money. And I know Kara's heart is she's ready to do and to actually execute the plan, but you've got to raise the funding to make provision for that. So we're all about simplifying the process for startup founders like Kara, as well as for investors. It doesn't cost anything to sign up on the website, either as a startup founder or an investor. And then we help take you through the process of getting ready with the regulatory prep, that the SEC and FINRA require so you can put a live campaign up. And so we invite you to join Fundify and become a member of our community. And in doing so, you'll be taken to the Baby Barista page here. If you either go up to Explore Startups once you're on our site, you don't have to be logged in or a member to look at the startups, but we invite you to do that. You can click here and it will take you to a number of these active investments and opportunities. You can click on the opportunity card and it will take you to her page here. By the way, if you scan this QR code, it will also take you directly to that page on your phone. So feel free to do that. And you can see more about the company, the background. There's several pages. I mentioned earlier, if you want to see it in action, go to this page and click on the video. And it's a brief video that recaps some of the things that Kara shared earlier, but also shows a demonstration of the machine in motion. And it's very compelling. It's very interesting to see. Now, there's other information about articles, industry press, company info, more on her team, who's invested so far. There's a discussion board. So if you want to carry on the conversation with Kara, you could do that here in the discussion board in Fundify. And then on occasion, she'll post out updates. And if you're following her, she will, those will come to you as well. And those updates, like the new patent, are things that you'll see more of.
Yeah, Craig, I just wanted to mention also that one of the things that drew me to Fundify was the differentiation that you actually do draw in industry experts. And I mean, I'll never forget when you and I had that call with one of our industry experts, and like he was literally sitting in the lobby of Johnson & Johnson having this discussion with me. And it was just really reassuring that both of these industry experts that have existed in the baby space, in the nutrition space, and at Johnson & Johnson, you know, believed in our campaign enough to actually put attach their name to it, and a testimonial. So that was one of the things that really drew me to Fundify. And I think it's a great point of differentiation for the various equity crowdfunding platforms out there.
Well, I appreciate that. And it is unique to us. And if you go to the page, folks, and you scroll down below the video, you'll see those two experts featured. Click on their names, you'll see a flyout, and it gives a brief bio of their expertise and then an in-depth assessment of the industry, its potential and industry trends and things of that nature. So to inform your due diligence, it's a very powerful way. As I've often said to startup founders, every rich person has a smart person that does their diligence. And so we've assembled those people around these startup offerings to help you with your diligence. If you want to get in contact with us at Fundify, here's our QR code for our website. Feel free to come to our site, the website here. You can note down any of this other information, and we'd be happy to talk to you. You can send an email if you're a founder to startups@fundify.com or investors to investors@fundify.com. So we really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks, Josh and Amy, for your time as well in helping to answer the questions of the various people, and for everybody else that was with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time. So from Austin, Texas, thanks for being here. Please go and visit the Fundify site and take a look at Baby Barista while you're there. And we'll look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. By the way, go to fundify.com/events to see a list of our upcoming webinars, including founders and experts for other companies, as well as topical items that might be of interest to you. Thanks for your time. Kara, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.